Thank you for stopping by the Life of Sassy and checking out today's video. If you like all things to do with food with a little bit of life mixed in, please click on that subscribe button down below. And if you enjoy this video and this recipe, please give me a thumbs up. Now let's get cooking. I'm going to be making potato buns. Now I have to be honest with you, making bread used to scare me, like absolutely terrify me. I thought there was no way it was going to rise. I wasn't going to knead it enough. It was terrifying to me. I have overcome that fear and I will show you how in just a couple of minutes. But before we get into that, let's talk about this potato bun recipe. I'm going to link the recipe down below, but this is my all-time favorite recipe. I use this recipe for so many things. Not only will I make potato buns with it, which is my go-to. I'm gonna be honest, I usually don't bake it into a loaf. I prefer to make it into buns, but I also use this for the dough for my homemade pizza pockets. We prefer it for the pizza pockets over pizza dough because it's a nice soft dough and it cooks really nicely even when you fold it over and stuff it. Whereas I find the pizza crust, when you get to the edge, it's just a lot to eat. These, they have good flavor and it works. As well, the same. My bagel bites, I use this dough. I use this dough for so many things. I use it for sweet, I use it for savory. It is 100% my go-to dough. Now, let me show you my secret on how I overcame my fear of making bread. Are you guys ready? Here it is. It is a bread machine. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, very rarely, actually, since we got this bread machine, never do I actually cook bread in my bread machine. I don't like the way it comes out. I don't like the shape of the loaf. But the dough setting is my best friend. I use it all the time. I make cinnamon buns. I make pizza dough. Yes, I know it's quicker to make pizza dough by hand, but this way, on a work night, I can toss it in here. An hour and a half later, I have pizza dough ready to go. A bread machine is definitely one of my must-have gadgets. We actually just got this one a little over a year ago. I had a bread machine probably, I want to say about 5 years, and it died just before the pandemic. Originally, I was trying to hold off until Mother's Day and see if they went on sale, but when the pandemic started rolling in, they started talking about locking things down. I knew there was no way I was going into lockdown without a bread machine, so I went and bought this one. It is a Sunbeam. I picked it up at Walmart and I love it. So let's go ahead now and get started making my potato buns. Here is everything I'm going to need to make my potato buns except for the flour. We store our flour in a really big bin on the floor, so I can't get it up on the counter. But I will be getting out 3 cups of flour, but I also need canola or vegetable oil, salt, potato flakes, sugar, instant or bread machine yeast, and there I have some water. Let's go ahead and get this in the bread machine. Okay, just so it's easier to show you guys, I've just put my bread insert on the counter. The first thing I'm going to do is add 1.25 cups of water. You want this between 70 and 80 degrees. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 teaspoon of salt. And then the recipe calls for 7.5 teaspoons of sugar. I'm going to be honest, I never use that much. I probably use closer to about 5 teaspoons. You do want the sugar in here. It is really important, trust me. Next, I need 2 tablespoons of canola or vegetable oil. I am using vegetable oil because that's what we have on hand. Now I need to go ahead and add my flour. Give me 1 second. Sorry guys, I didn't take you along to get the flour. My flour bin is almost empty, so I just didn't have room to set up the camera and show you guys. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my 2 tablespoons of potato flakes. You want to make sure that these are off to the side because you don't want them to touch your yeast. And I always add a little extra. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to make a little well in the middle. That's where my yeast is going to go. And then I need 1.5 teaspoons. I'm using quick rise yeast, which you can also use in your bread machine. I couldn't find bread machine yeast and it works just fine. Don't worry about it. I know if you follow the instructions, they say it has to be bread machine yeast. This quick rise works just as well, and especially I got this at the start of the pandemic when you couldn't find yeast anywhere. I went ahead and put the bread pan back in my bread machine. On my machine, the dough setting is 8. Now I'm just going to hit start, let that go. Now when you're using a bread machine, it's important after 5 minutes, always come back and check the consistency of your dough, see if you need to add water or flour. But this will take about this will take about an hour and 30 minutes. But I'll check this in about 5 minutes, make sure I don't need to add anything. And in an hour and a half, it's going to tell me my dough is ready and I can make my buns. The timer on my bread machine has just gone off. I have the oven preheating to 350. I have a cookie sheet here that I just put a piece of parchment on. And now I'm going to go ahead, take my dough out and roll it into buns. Here are the buns all rolled out. My oven has preheated to 350. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these in. I'm going to let them cook for about 20 minutes and then I'll check. My buns have come out of the oven. They ended up taking about 23 minutes. I'm going to let them cool and then I'll go ahead and put them in a Ziploc baggie because we'll be having them with one of our meals later in the week. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my video. If you like all things to do with food with a little life mixed in, please consider joining my YouTube family and clicking that subscribe button. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks again for stopping by. Have a great day, everyone.